Welcome to the leadpastor.com. I'm your host, Joshua Gordon, and I am a little starstruck, to be honest with you. I'm sitting with Bill Thrall. Bill, as I said before we started recording, you have impacted my life and the community that I'm part of in some pretty amazing ways, indirectly. And so I would love if you could just introduce yourself, maybe give like a bird's eye view from 30,000 feet in terms of kind of a bit of your history and your story. Talk about some of the things that you're super passionate about that you kind of built your life around.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Thrall. Just think of my life having three major time periods. Okay, I started my life professionally. I started my life as a CPA and a management consultant. We were blessed of God to go into the ministry in the late 60s, early 70s with a bunch of hippies. And so I'm this straight-laced Republican, Goldwater-ite, Frank Sinatra guy, and our ministry is a bunch of hippies who love rock and roll music.
Love it.
And so we had that second phase of my life in which I was able to, I would say it this way, I realized years later that we were experiencing grace far. It took us a long time to figure out how to codify what we were experiencing. But if you think of my life, you just think of my professional life. I'm a CPA. I become a pastor. Literally, I became a pastor of a church of several young adults. I teasingly say to people, 6 months ago, I couldn't spell pastor, now I are one. And so I pastored for 20-some years. And then for the last 30 years, I've been working primarily in the area of leaders and leader development, centered on a message. If somebody would say to me, Josh, what is your life all about? I would say this: by the grace of God, I have become the steward of a message of grace. That's really what continues to constantly work in my life and heart. I'm an old guy now, and yet we still have these projects we're working on. I realized with my small team, I think it was in October or November, that you know what? We can't wait every 3 years to write a book. There aren't enough 3 years of Bill left. So we are literally moving 4 projects forward simultaneously and trying to get these 4 projects published and worked on somehow by God's grace in the next 2 years. But that's what I'm doing now. I thank God that He's given me the strength I have. I teasingly say to people, I'm going to continue to talk. If I can make 3 sentences make sense, I won't stop. And until that time, that's what I do. And I've just counted a high privilege to be able to continue to come alongside leaders and their families. It's just what God has given me to do, and I love it.
Yeah, awesome, man. That's so sweet. I mean, one of my goals with leadpastor.com, and I guess a conviction that I have, is that while the role of pastor historically has been like super difficult, super challenging, like a lot of isolation, enormous amount of pressure, I believe that pastors still can thrive personally. They can still
Amen.
have vibrant, exciting lives where they're known by others, where they're loved by others. And the sad thing is that so few pastors that I know are actually experiencing that. And so maybe just to start us off in this conversation, what do you think is the biggest reason, and your tons and tons of experience that you've had, what would you say is like the biggest reason why pastors are not thriving and they're not doing well generally?
Wow. That's hard to pinpoint one. I have a couple, 3, maybe 4.
Yeah, give me 3, give me
I would
4,
say this.
whatever, man.
Yeah, I would say this, Josh. One of the things that I'm discovering, and I sit across the table from leaders and some often pastors, is this phenomenon. They're trapped in a theology that is not touching their reality.
Hmm.
And I can't think of anything that's more exhausting than to get up on my feet every Sunday and preach a message that is not applicable to my own life.
Wow. Yeah.
So what I do is I add to that saying and I say, what's lacking in a theology that does not touch my reality is grace.
Hmm.
Grace always touches my reality. So I would say I'd start there, and I would just say this: if you were coming to meet with me, I would say to you, as I do to just about everybody who meets with me, I say to them, just write a couple of paragraphs. Tell me who you are. Just don't give me a book. Just sometimes it's 7 pages, but all I want is a few paragraphs.
Yeah.
Who are you? And I think I would say to you, I'm discovering that one of the real reasons there's so much isolation, I would call exhaustion and disappointment, is because pastors aren't sure of who they are,
Hmm.
and their audience isn't sure of who they are.
Hmm.
And that's a hard thing to hear for many pastors. I know who I am. And I go, well, let's talk about that. Who are you? Here's an interesting thing I'm learning. I ask it a different way. Who do you say you are?
Hmm.
Is who you say you are the same as who God says you are?
Hmm.
Who does God say you are? It's a theology question. It's a big one, Josh. If my theology, even as a pastor, is still convincing me that I am a sinner, then I can promise you, as a pastor, your shame will define you.
Hmm.
But does your theology convince you that you are who God says you are, a saint? And if you are able, even as a pastor, to live into that reality, it'll change who you believe you are.
Hmm.
Uh, there's another word I'll throw out, Josh, because it's so often people don't know what to do with it. A lot of times pastors are trapped in a model of expectations.
Hmm.
And often the expectations of either the board or the synod or the audience, but everybody has, quote, these expectations of the pastor. You've done a lot of research and you know a lot of these things. Statistically, 50% of all pastors don't even see themselves as leaders.
Hmm.
But the expectation is that because he's the pastor, he's in charge.
Yeah.
And so I would say, wait. Let's talk about pastors. Guys, what are your own expectations? Do you know that a primary purpose of your exhaustion are the unmet expectations you have of you
Hmm.
and the unmet expectations others have of you? So let's talk about expectations. What is it that forms who I am? What
Yeah.
is it? You said a word a minute ago, Josh, and one of your convictions, I heard that. I like that. I like that word. I like the word convictions.
Yeah.
See, if a leader doesn't understand the essence of their convictions, they will always be a victim of their circumstances.
Hmm.
See? And
Hmm.
one of the traps that Christian leaders can get themselves into is they can misread opportunity.
Hmm.
And so what happens is I'm a leader, I'm a pastor. Well, opportunity must be my guide. No, be careful. Be careful. Convictions need to be your guide.
Hmm.
Opportunity can seduce you.
Yeah.
Circumstances can define you.
Hmm.
So those are kind of the answers. Those are the kind. That's the ball field I play in.
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, part of my job is I kind of have to keep my fingers on the pulse of
Sure.
what's being talked about in the world. I hate that even industry is can even be applied to this, but like in the church industry. And I've noticed there is a huge swing towards tactics, towards strategies, and a lot of pastors will. I mean, a lot of folks that I know, myself included, like, okay, I'm struggling with like board meetings tend to be really brutal, maybe get really long. There's this one person that always like pulls the conversation. I just wish things would go more smoothly, right? And so I go on the internet and I search how to help my board meeting go more smoothly, and then I find like
Right.
a list of like 10 or 15 things, um, and what I've experienced in my own life, both in terms of pastoring, but also just in terms of being a dad and being a husband and
Sure.
having friends is so often like, tell me what to do to fix this specific situation.
Right.
And I think the ball field that you're playing in is it can be difficult to want to go there because I'd much rather give me tasks to do, right?
Right.
Like, and so how, I mean, what do you say to encourage folks like myself or the other pastors out there who just like, listen, I just need an answer to this strategic tactical style question.
Yeah, that's the one you need today, and the next Tuesday you'll need another one,
Yeah.
and then a month from Thursday you'll need 3 more.
Yeah.
You're asking the right question in relationship to what I was saying, because here's the dynamic, at least as I see it. What if a leader could learn that the most important item to their influence was the significance of their person?
Hmm.
What if a leader could learn that? And I'll say this in a non-teasing way. It's easier to look for answers to how to do something than it is to seek the truth that'll change who I am.
Yep.
It's just easier.
Yeah.
And again, what I'm emphasizing, Josh, is this: what is it that you and this audience that God has given you, what is it that is absolutely the most critical issue that they need to process in order for them to be able, in my words, for them to be able to do the things they're really designed to do?
Hmm.
And I'm not saying not to be tactical. I'm not saying that. I understand, I've been through a lot of pastors' meetings, and, I've
Yeah.
watched everybody compare each other's notes, and let's
Yeah.
go find the pastor who's doing it right and have a conference, and everybody
Yeah.
do the way that he's doing it, and everything will be
Yeah.
fine. I teasingly say to people that if David were alive today, every pastor would own a slingshot.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. I would for sure.
Exactly. Because we assume that the slingshot is the answer to the problem. How did
Yeah.
you kill the giant? Well, I
Yeah.
used the slingshot. How
Yeah.
did your church grow? Well, I did these things.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting just playing with that David story for a minute. You know, David's a young boy, a young man at that time. But that day David knew he couldn't die
Hmm.
or God would be a liar,
Yeah.
because he was already anointed king.
Yeah.
He knew Goliath didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
You remember they tried to put Saul's armor on him. That would be the how-to thing we were talking
Yeah.
about. That, he can't go out there. He's got a little loincloth on and some sandals. Goliath is, well, it didn't work. It didn't fit, all that good stuff. And so what did David do? He went out against the giant with what he had, with what he
Yeah.
knew. In my words, with who he was.
Yeah.
He was that
Mm.
day the person who couldn't die.
Yeah.
I'm that person. You'll hear it in everything I talk about. I'm that person that'll just keep saying, wait, 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 wait. What's the significance of who we are? And how does that significance play into what we do? And what if what we did, because we're faithful, changed the way we do ministry and life? And it may not compare to yours,
Yeah.
and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. 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 I wonder, I wonder if David felt any fear at all. I mean, my read of it, like, if I'm just like scrolling through,
Sure.
um, like my memory, like my read of it is like he was defending to Saul, like, "Hey, listen, I've done this before, like of the lion and
Yeah.
the bear," and so it's easy for me to feel to things like he didn't feel fear. Um, yeah, maybe I'm just desperate that he did because then I can relate to it a bit more. You know,
Well said. Well said. Hey, I would say this. Pick on somebody else. Pick on Gideon. He was afraid.
yeah,
He was afraid.
yeah,
Touched of God to do the impossible, but he was afraid.
yeah,
Are you sure, God? Let me come on. Reaffirm. Could you reaffirm it 2 or 3 more different ways, God? This is something you really want me to do. Do you know who I am? I'm from the least of the tribes, God.
yeah,
You got to find somebody else to do this job.
yeah,
So I think it's a healthy part of our being.
hmm,
I'll say it this way. I love the word imagine.
mm,
It's a healthy part of my being to imagine the God of the universe has his hand on my life.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome. That
yeah,
that puts me into an awe, and at the same time, I go, thank you, God. So it isn't like, oh my gosh, David, maybe he wasn't afraid, but I can tell you Gideon was. I,
yeah,
Gideon's on our side,
yeah.
and and go ahead.
Yeah, that was I'm just thinking about how really, I mean, it's such a great pairing of examples because in some ways, um, David is responding out of the significance that of his person, and Gideon's
Exactly.
response is out of the insignificance of his person. And so it's almost like
Exactly.
two different sides of the coin, like where, yeah. So I guess I need more, I need more assurance of my significance.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Well, I think we all do, and I don't mean that in a teasing way. I hate to say this, but in the narrowness of the people I've met with a lot of pastors who are very disappointed
mm,
that the dream they dreamed is not the reality they're experiencing.
yeah,
And so often they went in with an honest call on their life. God's on my team. He's my guide. Oh, Jesus is the driver. All they got all that, and yet reality hits them.
yeah,
And what happens, and I'll say this carefully, is they become disappointed in themselves.
mm,
Initially, they blame their circumstances. Initially, they blame the church, the people, the hierarchy. They blame, but eventually, they're disappointed with themselves. This is not who I thought I'd be.
yeah,
And I just say, Josh, to these pastors, friends of yours, um, let's be careful. Let's be careful to understand the significance of who God says we are. That my reality is defined by Him, not by my circumstances, not by my expectations, not by your expectations, etc. How do I learn to live in to this reality of who God says I am?
mm,
Because I teach a lot, as you know, in all of these variety of places, and I'm always kind of looking for ways to get in. And one of the things that I would say, Josh, is this: um, I think it's a long time ago now, but I think it was 1994, a huge survey was done of Christian leadership in America. And I remember it very, very well because these were the words, these were the foundation I'll never forget. 1994, Barnes statement, 63% of all Christian leaders do not finish well.
Yeah.
And the number one cause of their failure is isolation.
Yeah. I mean,
So
more recent numbers absolutely bear that out. I think I saw numbers, something like 30% of pastors have contemplated self-harm because, like, just devastating.
just think how tragic that is.
Yeah.
So the cause of isolation is not to be alone. That's not the cause of isolation. The cause of isolation is to learn to trust no one with who you are.
Yeah.
See, so that when I work with a leader today who's in transition, I'll always make this statement to them. What you do next is never as important as who you do next with. What you do next is never as important as who you do next with.
Yeah.
Because isolation is a reality caused by a lack of trust. Now, I say this again, non-teasingly, but ministry hurts. Ministry's hard.
Yeah.
And you know, I get to that point where I don't want to be beat up anymore. I get to that point where I'm not sure who I should trust.
Yeah.
Those are some of the most dangerous words I'll ever hear out of a pastor's mouth.
Yeah.
Because the minute I say I don't know who I'm going to trust, unwittingly, Josh, I've made this decision. The day I choose to not trust is the day I choose to not be loved.
Oh, oh boy. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it makes
Isolation,
sense, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Isolation isn't just my being alone. Isolation is my being apart from.
Because choosing not to trust is choosing not to expose yourself in a way,
Exactly.
right? And then you're
Exactly.
closing the big iron doors, and then how's love supposed to get through?
It can't get through.
Oh.
Of my variety of one-liners, this is one of my one-liners. The degree to which I trust you is the degree to which I can experience your love,
Man.
even if your name is God.
Oh boy. Sorry, that's what that one's. Yeah, that's. Well.
I had a leader in the very room I'm sitting in. I had a leader and his wife sitting. You don't see it. There's a couch. I had a leader and his wife sitting here on Tuesday. and I said, I don't know. They've come to see me. Maybe this is the fourth or fifth time. And I say to them, okay, now remember what we're doing. We're making a connection in your relationship between trust, love, expectations, and disappointment. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's becoming safe for both of them. So she made a statement, and I'm telling you, he went off on her for like 3 or 4 minutes with me being present there. It was just, when he got all done, I said to him, thank you so much. That's exactly what we all needed to hear. I said, would you like me to ask you, how do you think she feels right now?
Yeah.
So it's not just in a marriage relationship. It's in all relationships.
Yeah.
Here's a tragic possibility. When I'm in isolation, I become vulnerable to hiddenness.
Yep.
And when I become vulnerable to hiddenness, my shame begins to define solutions to my grief.
Mm.
I've sat across from, quote, failed leaders who, for moral issues or, the stories are very similar. It's no big shock, except once in a while, one of them will say, I just don't know how this happened.
Yeah.
And I'll say, oh boy, I can't help you now.
Yeah.
Why not? Because you're not willing to face reality.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? When you're ready to tell me why it happened, I'll be glad to help you. But don't hide behind, I don't know how this happened.
Mm.
It happened because you made a choice out of your hiddenness to participate in something you promised yourself you'd never do.
Yeah. Mm.
Wow. Wow.
Man. A lot of the pastors I've talked to, they uh I'll ask them like what kind of support systems that they have around. And
Right.
very often it's like, oh, we go for breakfast once a week. There's a few pastors from like, from the city, or it's like there's a couple of elders or something like that, or some board members or something. And uh and so I'm just imagining like one of those pastors, um, and like hearing especially their line about hiddenness and being
Yeah.
hidden. Like, in a practical sense, what does it mean to not be in hiddenness? Like, what does that look like as far as a relationship with yeah.
That's a very good, thank you. That's a very good insight. I would say this, how do I help a pastor get past the fear of being known?
Mm,
There is this expectation of a spiritual superiority that somehow I have to fold myself into.
yeah.
And if I'm hiding anything, whatever I'm hiding breaks that mold. And so I really can't tell. And I'm afraid to tell. And this is an honest fear, Josh.
Yeah.
I go like this, come, but don't get too close.
Yeah.
Come, but don't get too close. Because if you get too close, you'll really know who I am. And that's exactly what somebody does need to know.
Yeah.
Not everybody, Josh. That's foolishness. Not everybody has to know everything about me. But I can promise any pastor this. If there isn't somebody who knows everything, I become a victim of whatever I'm hiding.
Mm,
It's never neutral. We
yeah.
have this false reality that somehow I am in control of what I'm hiding. Good
Yeah.
luck. Good
Yeah.
luck.
Oh,
You're not. No, if you were in control, let me just say this very carefully. If you were in control of what you're hiding, you would no longer hide.
yeah.
You have lost control of what you're hiding is the key to dealing with what is hidden.
Yeah. I feel like that ties into what you said earlier about shame and like
Absolutely.
circumstances defining. Cause like shame is the biggest reason that I don't expose the things that I'm hiding. Um,
Exactly.
would you is it too much to say that like shame is like the primary villain for pastors?
That's a great thought. Here's what I would say. We know the theology. Because man sinned, he experienced shame for the first time.
Yeah.
And he did something. I call it the first act of sin management in all of history. He covered himself with fig leaves.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm a huge, let's be careful of the sin management dynamic because it's crippling. Here's the point I would make. Once shame is ignited by sin, it will define me. I don't know your story. You don't know really my story, but I can promise you, I have never met a person who does not have a shame story.
Yeah.
I don't. There is no such person.
Yeah.
Now, what I've got to learn as a Christian leader, this marvelous verse in Romans 8, well, there is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. We preach it and we preach it and we go, well, that's not my reality.
Yeah.
How do I? So recently, this past year, I wrote a theme. I wrote an essay. It's titled From Shame to No Condemnation.
Hmm.
And it's in the book that John and I just finished. And my whole purpose in that was to answer your question. The question, say this carefully, trying to deal with your shame, I'm going to wish you good luck.
Hmm.
But learning that in Christ I am not condemned lays the foundation for my shame to no longer define me. Who's teaching us how to live without condemnation? Where's that message?
Yeah.
Who's teaching us that? And the reason so many aren't teaching it is because they haven't discovered in their own hiddenness how to deal with their own shame.
Yeah.
So I know it sounds heavy and all that good stuff, but I would say this. Jesus Christ, our Savior, not only took upon him my sin at Calvary, he took upon him my shame.
Yeah.
I want to believe that. I'm an evangelical. You're an evangelical. What have we learned? We've learned to trust Jesus with our sin. He's our Savior. We're going to heaven. That's our message. Yeah. But what if that same Jesus could be trusted with our shame, just like we trusted him with our sin? That would open a different door.
Yeah.
That might open a different box, but at least it's the one I'm doing my best to help leaders walk through.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I'm a verbal processor, so you'll have to forgive me if I don't get to the point quickly here.
No, you're doing great.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad I'm recording this. Everything that you're saying, my heart is resonating with deeply.
Good.
Here's the problem, Bill, is that and this is being vulnerable. Sure. I'm not sure I'm totally convinced. Well, I'm convinced that Jesus is okay with my shame and can handle my shame, but I'm not sure other people can. And the next step beyond that, which is what I really don't want to say, is I don't know if I'm convinced that Jesus is enough for me on the other side of that.
Exactly. Thank you. Well said. We could pause here for an hour because this is really critical. No, really, Josh, this is really critical. Because we go back to that word trust. You see, I mean, I don't mean this again teasingly, but I've met hundreds of Christian leaders who have trusted Jesus with their sin, but have never trusted Jesus with their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
And you just said it. You just said it. The doubt of the possibility. I mean, we're preachers. We're leading pastors.
Yeah.
Who charge? You know, the doubt of the possibility. If I trusted him, would he actually be there?
Yeah.
Now, you made a, in my opinion, a profound statement, because I've sat across the table from a lot of people who have not yet known Jesus, and they've said the same thing. If I trust him, will he actually be there? The process is the same, Josh. Trusting Jesus with my sin is, I say it this way. Every time I trust Jesus, I will experience grace.
Mm.
Every time. So this isn't the final answer, but let me give you a bit of an answer to what you just said. And I've learned to do this, Josh, with encouraging me and you and others. I've learned to pray a lot of short prayers,
Mm,
a lot of short prayers, sometimes thousands of times the same prayer. But let me give you an example of a short prayer with what you said. Jesus, teach me to trust you with my shame.
mm,
Jesus, teach me to trust you with my shame. It's not like he can't do that. But I'll tell you what, one of the things I must have said one of the things I must have said 15 times already today. I'll say it again. One of the things that I would also say is this. Um, no one, including Jesus, has access to me without my permission.
mm,
Jesus, teach me to trust you with my shame.
yeah.
Teach me to give you permission. You know the theology, the
Yeah.
church in Laodicea, they say we have everything we want. We have need of nothing. That's their big testimony. We have need of nothing. And Jesus says, well, you missed it by just a little bit. You're blind, naked, and you're in horrible shape. But he does an amazing thing. We misuse it for evangelical presentations. Behold, I say at the door and knock. That's actually for the church.
Yeah.
He's knocking. Why? Because he needs permission to get in.
Yeah.
I say, well, he's sovereign. I'm not denying his sovereignty. What I'm doing is I'm theologically saying, Jesus stood at the door and knocked. And now he knew them. He described their condition, but he didn't knock on the door to condemn them. He knocked on the door to invite them to a relationship with him around a meal.
Yeah.
So my answer in part to what you're saying is this. Lord, teach me to trust Jesus with my shame. Teach me to receive his invitation to be with him.
Yeah.
Huh. That may be a different way of looking at some aspects of life.
Yeah. Yeah. It strikes me that, as pastors preaching, counseling, shepherding, caring for people, it is so easy to almost feel like a bit of a callus to develop between like my heart and then the words of life that I'm sharing to other people. And I feel
Yep.
like that's kind of what you've been kind of getting at in a lot of ways. And I think you said earlier, it's much easier to look for the short-term tactics to solve X problem. And it's much more difficult to be willing to go into the deep water
Amen.
of these big questions. And
Absolutely.
yeah, like, because at the end of the day, you can find the answers. You can copy pastor from down the street or pastor from a big city who's got the big church, and you actually might find things moving more smoothly in your church. But the big question in my mind is I'm thinking about, like without faith, it's impossible to please the Lord.
Right.
And without trust, it's impossible
Right.
to please the Lord. And I
Amen.
wonder if the version of me that's out there pounding the pavement, trying to make my church as big and amazing and wonderful as possible, is that me being the church of Laodicea? I'm like, look what I've done, look what I've got, like, and realize internally I'm shriveled and
Yeah.
I'm agonizingly hungry. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I thank you. I would say today in just these few minutes, we're hitting at some really core issues regarding pastors. And I'm a person who's suggesting their greatest need is to be known and to be loved, because that's
yeah,
humanity's greatest need.
yeah,
And if their circumstances are robbing them from being known and their lack of trust is robbing them from being loved. They're not gonna. They've got to live disappointed. You have to.
Yeah.
It's not like you can mask it and be happy.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So as we talk, I sit and I go, okay, let's come back 20 minutes. Let's back up 20, 30 minutes and let's remind ourselves. Let's just say this. In at least Bill Thrall's opinion, the most important thing for you as a pastor is to come to faith regarding who Jesus says you are.
Mm.
And no longer let your shame define you. The reason I fear being known is I'm afraid you're going to reject me.
Yeah.
And so because I'm just built around all these one-liners, this is what I'll do. If the penalty for what I tell, if the penalty for what I tell you is so great that I can't bear the weight of it, I will hide from you until you catch me.
Oh, yeah.
So what am I saying? I'm trying to say, and with a big smile on my face, I'm trying to say, my dear brothers and sisters, what if you were able to pray a prayer like this? Lord, teach me to trust who you say I am. Lord, teach me to trust who you say I am. I have all of those hidden dynamics, shame. I'm a master of shame. I've got, well, come on, give me a couple minutes here and I'll give you some descriptions that'll just shock you. No, it's like, how did I ever come to peace with it? Wasn't because, look, I hid. My wife, it's one of my favorite life stories. I won't do it now, but I hid. And my wife confronted me. And she said these words to me that changed my life. These were her words. Bill, why can't you trust me? Why won't you let me love you?
Mm.
I love my wife. There's nobody in the whole world that I would love to love me more than my wife.
Yeah.
But my fear of what I was hiding was robbing her of me. And in that night when she made that statement, if you said to my wife, why did you ever say that to Bill? Her answers that was 50 years ago. Her answer is always the same, because I knew I was losing him to something. I just didn't know what it was.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so we just did some podcasts on this very subject just this week. We did 3 podcasts earlier this week on what I'm talking about now on this whole area. But I want to be a voice of encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a promise in 1 Peter chapter 5. This is a promise. God gives grace to the humble. That's a promise. It's a huge promise. God gives grace to the humble. Oh, I'd love to have God's grace. Could you help me understand what it means to be humble, please?
Yeah.
It's like if God gives grace to the humble. And so over the years, we've learned to define that word humility in a relational context. Humility is trusting God and others with me.
Mm.
And whenever I am able to trust you with me, we will experience grace.
Yeah.
Every time I trust God with me, I will experience grace.
Yeah.
Trusting God with me. What a great idea. Would you please tell me how to do that? Does anybody have any clue on how to do that? And so on. So
Yeah. Man. Oh, I feel like there's so many rabbit trails I just want to run down with you so hard. And we've already been going for 45 minutes, and I am so thankful for this time with you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Well, you're so welcome. Anytime, Josh. Just call me again. I'll be glad to respond.
Okay, excellent, because I have more questions for sure.
Good. Let's
Um,
do it.
yeah. So, listen, you mentioned that you've got a podcast. Tell us
Yes.
about the podcast and where to go to find it.
It's livinginfluence.com. And we're going to start one. In fact, we're going to do our first shoots tomorrow, Friday. We're going to start one called Living Influence for Leaders. And it's an opportunity. We just create themes like we've been talking about. I'm just talking themes. And we do podcasts on these themes. And so I'm just saying to people, there are opportunities because of grace to experience who God says I am.
Yeah.
And what if, Scott, for instance, Josh, as we finish here today, what if we both just left this few minutes together and we made this statement, God, teach me to trust others with who I am. I'll say it again. It's a super negative statement. If I don't trust God and others with what I've hidden, whatever I've hidden will one day define me.
Wow. Yeah.
Happy thoughts. That's a great. Thanks, Bill. I'm glad you're here. Come back and see us again. Bless you, brother. Thank you.
I mean, here's the thing is that like so many of us, our lives are defined by negatives. And
Absolutely.
And the challenge is, or I feel like what's different what you're saying though, is it's on a bedrock of hope where it's like a negative in a way, but it's like, it's pointing to the hope. It's pointing to the hope that we have and like the significance that we have, right?
That is grace.
Yeah.
That is grace. It creates a hope. Again, I'm sorry, but we talk about all these negative dynamics with these pastors, but really, when you live disappointed, it's because you've lost hope.
Yeah.
The human being has unbelievably strong emotional elasticity. The human being can come back from unbelievable, deep, dark things until you lose hope.
Yeah.
And when you lose hope, you become vulnerable to horrific life choices.
Yeah.
Wow. Bill, you're just making us all smile. Stop it. Josh, listen, brother, I love being with you today. Call me again. I'll come back and we'll do this all over again.